spend an abnormal amount of our fiscus on education, yet the results have not been delivered. And a lot of the blame is placed on the quality of teachers, the quality of the administration of the schools, and again, can you just talk about what has been done either in those partnerships or in the basic education department around improving, around teacher development and improving the quality outcomes that have been referred to?
We as the partnership directorate, we are guided by our enabling environment, which are the pillars that are set for us in terms of our deliverables, which are also guided by the NDP in terms of the priorities of the sector. For instance, the few priorities that we have are ECD, ICT, infrastructure, teacher training and development. Those are the key areas that are, in essence, need much focus in terms of the support from the social partners. And if I may say that we are actually on the road in terms of making sure that we get the adequate support from our stakeholders. And with regards to ECD, we have seen a number of changes in terms of our offering, because we have those stakeholders that are ECD practitioners who are more than willing to come on board and actually give us their expertise to improve our ECD space. For instance, as we know that we are about to port the ECD space from DSD to Department of Basic Education. So as we are still in talks, we are welcoming suggestions in terms of how best we can improve that space. And of course, we are not master of everything, but we are trying by all means to give access to those who have the know-how to come and assist us in terms of making sure that we deliver as expected. With regards to ICT, we have the likes of Vodacom who are actually assisting us in terms of connectivity to those remote schools that don't have connectivity. And we really, really much appreciate in terms of such. With regards to teacher training, we do also have partners that are willing to give assistance in terms of training our teachers and the resources, which falls under there's a directorate called LTSM, Learner Teacher Support Materials. So they are the ones who are actually spearheading those particular initiatives. So I would say that we are on the right track. However, much needs to be done based on the private-public partnerships, which we are more welcoming and yeah. So
how does one go about, and I'm probably just going to hop on that just for a little bit longer as well and keep you on the spot. Again, what we're looking for is an improvement in the quality of outcomes. And I guess the outcomes are that we have improved learner results, especially when it comes to, and Kanyisa was talking about it, their appropriateness in the job market upon leaving school and then also entering into tertiary education. Basic education is refers to the primary school level in particular. Is that correct? What is referred to as basic education? And what are the outcomes that you need to address to improve those outcomes? What do you need to do?
What do we refer to as basic education? I would say, the first 6 years of a child, those are the key years, critical years for a child, because that's where you mold the child. That's where you mold a better person for the country. And us as basic education, I think we as the custodian of education, we need to instill the foundation in terms of reading skills, numeracy skills, life skills. So basic education is based on that, the first foundation phase of the education space.
Okay. It's a basic question about basic education, but there's a purpose for that, because when you start with, and we'll move in to asking Gabrielle again, and David, you are focused around early childhood development, but when you talk about language skills or early language learning and etc., explain to us what you're referring to in terms of entry into the basic education space, or at least into primary education from an early childhood perspective.
Yeah, so we must remember that the brain is most malleable and most receptive to cognitive stimulation, to emotional stimulation, to neuromuscular development in the first 3 years of life. That's when the scaffolding is laid down. So if we miss that, we mustn't be surprised if teachers in foundation phase find it very, very hard to teach their children. That's the reality. If only a quarter of our children who are age 3 and 4 or a quarter are in any sort of get any sort of quality early learning experience, we must understand that they start school on a fundamentally different trajectory. So we have to get that right. And let me just pick up on the point about the opportunity of the move of early learning, of early childhood development from DSD to DBE, because I think it's pertinent to collaboration. There's fantastic opportunity, but there's also massive risk. If that is simply construed as a transfer of functions from one directorate, low down in the DSD, to one directorate, low down in DBE, we will have achieved nothing. We will spend the next 5 years simply tinkering and not actually do anything. But if we say, let's imagine this as a true partnership. Why? Because most of providers of early learning at the moment are in private sector. We have faith-based organizations. We have huge number of funders, business, private foundation, all of whom that have created this scaffold, this network that has to be built on. Let's elevate early childhood development. Let's create an agency under the Ministry of Education, and there's nothing stopping that in what the President has said. And let's do it like the Latin American countries do, where we actually have academia, civil society, and government all together in a single nerve center that's driving early learning. And then let's create a national program, Bolsa Familia, Oportunidades, Head Start, Sure Start, whatever South Africa wants to call it. That's the type of integration that we need. So often we talk about collaboration, and we're actually simply talking about getting together in the same room and nattering about the same issues of interest. That's not true collaboration. So if we can work towards that, and if that's what's meant by the new move in the ECD space, it would be transformative for children in South Africa. So we need to understand that early childhood development requires an integration of good healthcare. Pregnancy is absolutely crucial. Nutrition is absolutely fundamental, and a quarter of our children under 5 are stunted. So we're knocking off 1/4 of our future economic potential today for 20 years' time because a quarter of our children are nutritionally stunted. Nutrition, early learning, parental support, child protection, those pieces need to come together, and they can. What we've tried to do through DGMT is create almost like galvanizing initiatives where people feel like they can get behind them. So Ilifa Labantwana is a consortium of funders together with operating partners, implementing partners, working with government to create the systems, the management systems for scaling up early learning, working with government to develop the data systems. Smart Start, a platform for scale for early learning, where we're now getting business sector coming in, helping to distribute across the center, across the sector, but where you've created a real impetus for change. Nali Bali is another example. Activate. You may have heard these words, but they're developing platforms that can almost act in a centripetal way, attracting and bringing together a range of unusual partners towards a common goal.
So that's actually an interesting segue to Rooksana in terms of NASCI. Just give us some background there. Is there a direct relationship between where you talked about trying to build trust between funders and implementers using platforms that David talks about? For example, not the same, but necessarily.
Yeah. DASCI is not, it's just sort of taking shape and being formalized now, but it started a long time ago. If we talk about early childhood development, there are hundreds of NGOs are already operating in that space, but there is no real advocacy space for them. You don't really understand what the impact that they are making. There isn't really a position where we are looking at a collaborative effort between the NGOs and the funders as well as government at this stage. There's pockets of it. I mean, we've heard of numerous projects now, but why can't we actually get what those effects of those projects are? They seem to be in pockets and marginalized, in working in silos, and that's what I was talking about, not literally being in the same room, but being able to understand and listen to one another. So, we go off on one trajectory. We have implementation vehicles, but we have policy being developed, decisions being made, but without conversation, without the collaboration. And if you look at collaboration, it's working together with common goals. So we need to start by having common goals. But if we have different goals, if we have different perspectives, if we have different areas that we want to talk about and not collaborate, we're not going to get that impact. And I think this is why we're saying if we have this association, it actually gives it that impetus where we bring people together to talk together. When we talk about the platform, there's two ways of looking at it. A platform giving you the common voice that we're looking at, but the other platform is where we can actually map it using technology to collaborate with technology so that we can see where these projects are taking place and being implemented without duplication. Everyone vies for the same pot. Everyone wants to do the same kind of implementation in the same easy-to-reach areas. And they are hugely neglected areas, and nobody knows about them. Nobody wants to go out there. So that kind of platform would serve to look at where the duplication is, where the gaps are existing, and therefore I say, and I emphasize that we should stop working in silos. We talk collaboration, but we don't act in a collaborative manner.